I never imagined that an innocuous email could shatter the boundaries of my carefully constructed life. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon, the kind where the world outside seems to pause in a melancholy drizzle, and I was holed up in my cramped downtown apartment, buried beneath the clutter of daily responsibilities. I had just returned from another exhausting day at the office when my laptop pinged with a new message. I clicked open my inbox, expecting the usual barrage of work memos and promotional spam. Instead, my eyes locked onto an email with a subject line that made my heart skip a beat. Your reservation is confirmed. Opulent Haven Resort, exclusive stay and private invitations. At first, I questioned my own sanity. I did not recall ever booking a stay at a resort far beyond my modest means, nor did I remember subscribing to any luxury travel newsletters. The email was pristine, a seamless blend of elegant typography and minimalist design, and it detailed a reservation for a 3-night stay at a resort so opulent that it seemed to exist in a realm of its own. The confirmation noted a suite in the Aurora Wing, a name that conjured images of luminous skies and uncharted wonder. Beneath the reservation details, an additional section caught my eye, a list of private invitations to a series of discreet meetups scheduled throughout my stay. The language was tantalizingly vague, phrases like intimate, forbidden gatherings and exclusive encounters for the discerning guest danced across the screen, igniting a fire of curiosity and a dash of trepidation. I sat in stunned silence, my pulse quickening as I reread the email. It was as if someone had reached into the monotony of my routine and tossed me a key to a secret world, a realm of luxury and allure that I had always believed belonged to a different life. I scanned the email for clues, the reservation number, the resort's address, and even a small digital signature that simply read Opulent Haven Concierge. Everything was meticulously arranged, yet there was no indication of how or why I had come to be selected for such an experience. My mind raced with possibilities. Was this an elaborate mistake? A gift from a mysterious benefactor? Or perhaps an invitation designed to lure someone like me out of a life steeped in predictable mediocrity? After a few moments of anxious deliberation, the lure of the unknown proved too irresistible. I confirmed the reservation with a hesitant click, my finger trembling on the mouse as if it were making a life-altering decision. The response was immediate, a new email thanking me for accepting the invitation and offering instructions to check in at a discreet entrance of the resort upon my arrival. The email promised that each subsequent communication would reveal more details about the forbidden meetups, events that were described in equal parts as an homage to art and an exploration of unspoken desires. The days leading up to my departure were a whirlwind of emotion and preparation. I found myself rummaging through my wardrobe for something that spoke of quiet sophistication, a suit of soft velvet for an evening out, a pair of polished shoes that could carry me confidently into an unknown adventure. I spent hours poring over online reviews of the resort, piecing together a mosaic of opulence from scattered testimonials and cryptic photographs posted by previous guests. Every description painted a picture of a place where time was suspended, where decadence and intimacy intertwined in a way that both enthralled and unsettled me. When the day of my departure finally arrived, the skies were clear and blue, a stark contrast to the brooding melancholy of the previous week. I boarded a train bound for the coastal city where the resort was located, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and fear. The rhythmic clatter of the train on the tracks seemed to echo my own racing thoughts, each stop along the way a reminder that I was leaving behind the world I knew to step into something far more extraordinary. I arrived at the station just as dusk was settling in, the sky painted in hues of purple and orange. A sleek black car awaited me outside the terminal, its presence as understated as it was elegant. The driver greeted me with a courteous nod and led me through the winding streets to the address specified in my email. As the car turned onto a long, tree-lined avenue, I caught my first glimpse of the resort, a sprawling estate that seemed to defy time. Towering palm trees, manicured gardens, and a grand entrance with arched doorways invited me into a world of luxury beyond my wildest imaginings. The check-in process was discreet and almost surreal. I was escorted by a well-dressed concierge to a private entrance marked only by an elegant plaque bearing the resort's emblem, a stylized phoenix rising against a backdrop of shimmering stars. I followed him along a corridor adorned with marble floors and rich tapestries until we reached my suite. The door, engraved with the words Aurora Wing, opened onto a space that took my breath away. My suite was a masterpiece of refined taste and artistic flourish. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a panoramic view of the ocean, its surface sparkling under the glow of the setting sun. The interior was a harmonious blend of contemporary design and classical opulence. Soft, ambient lighting played upon luxurious fabrics and handcrafted furniture, each detail meticulously curated to evoke a sense of timeless elegance. A grand chandelier hung from the ceiling, its crystals scattering light like tiny constellations across the room. On a polished wooden table, a single envelope lay waiting, a second confirmation, this one outlining the first of several private invitations. The message was brief yet charged with promise. Tonight, meet at the Blue Parlor. Let your heart guide you into the forbidden. I sat by the window, my eyes tracing the distant horizon as I allowed the gravity of the moment to sink in. Every detail, the gentle hum of the ocean, the subtle fragrance of jasmine wafting through the air, the whispered promise of clandestine gatherings, felt like a signpost pointing toward a life that was waiting just beyond the confines of my ordinary existence. I had always believed that passion and adventure were reserved for the pages of novels or the silver screen. Now, here I was, on the cusp of experiencing them firsthand. That evening, after a light dinner in the resort's main dining hall, an expansive space filled with soft music, delicate porcelain, and the murmurs of elegantly dressed guests, I made my way to the Blue Parlor. The invitation had mentioned that the location was accessible only to those who knew the secret code, a detail I had gleaned from a discreet note tucked into my confirmation email. At the reception of the Blue Parlor, a slender, mysterious figure in a tailored suit greeted me with a knowing smile. "Welcome," he said softly, his voice carrying an accent that hinted at far-off lands. "May I have your code?" I recited the series of numbers and letters, and he nodded, his eyes twinkling with approval. He ushered me inside. The Blue Parlor was a realm unto itself. The lighting was subdued, with soft blues and silvers dominating the decor, reminiscent of moonlight on water. Plush velvet couches were arranged in intimate clusters, and subtle art installations caught the eye with their enigmatic symbolism. In one corner, a small stage hosted a live performance, a sultry jazz singer whose voice seemed to capture the very essence of longing and secret desires. I settled into a secluded nook, my senses alive with anticipation and a touch of apprehension. For the next few hours, I drifted between conversations with fellow guests, each encounter a delicate dance of shared glances, whispered confidences, and unspoken understanding. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of forbidden intimacy, a recognition that we were all here for reasons that transcended mere leisure. I found myself in conversation with a woman named Elena, whose eyes were dark pools of sorrow and strength. She confided that she, too, had been invited unexpectedly, and that the meetups were rumored to be orchestrated by a clandestine group that celebrated the art of living on the edge. "It's like a secret society," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "One that exists outside the bounds of convention, where every meeting is a step toward reclaiming the parts of us we've lost." Her words struck a chord deep within me, resonating with the latent desire for freedom and authenticity that I had long buried under layers of routine and obligation. As the evening wore on, I realized that the Blue Parlor was more than just a venue, it was a crucible of transformation, a place where the boundaries between the ordinary and the extraordinary blurred into a kaleidoscope of possibilities. I met a series of fascinating individuals, a poet with a melancholy smile who recited verses about lost loves and reclaimed dreams, a retired professor who spoke passionately about the beauty of imperfection and the necessity of risk, and a quiet artist whose paintings captured the raw, unfiltered essence of life's fleeting moments. Each encounter left me with a sense of connection, a recognition that we were all united by the same unspoken longing to break free from the chains of predictability. By the time the night deepened into the early hours, I felt an overwhelming mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. I left the Blue Parlor with a head swirling in a tapestry of newfound insights and emotions. As I made my way back to my suite, the quiet corridors of the resort echoed with the soft footsteps of those who, like me, were returning from a night of intimate revelations. In the solitude of my room, I sat by the large window overlooking the darkened ocean, and for the first time in years, I felt a deep sense of possibility. I opened my journal and began to write, the ink flowing as freely as the emotions that surged within me. I wrote about the opulent beauty of the resort, the enigmatic invitations that had unlocked hidden realms of passion, and the forbidden meetups that had challenged me to confront the parts of myself I had long kept hidden. Each word was a declaration of my commitment to a life lived with courage, authenticity, and a willingness to embrace the unknown. The next morning, as I awoke to the soft chirping of birds and the gentle caress of sunlight filtering through sheer curtains, I felt an unfamiliar lightness, a sense of renewal that permeated every fiber of my being. The opulent resort had become more than just a setting for a luxurious getaway, it was a catalyst for transformation, a place where I could rediscover the vibrant, unrestrained parts of myself that had been dormant for far too long. Over the course of my stay, I found that each day unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony of indulgence and introspection. Mornings were spent in quiet contemplation by the infinity pool, where I gazed out at the endless expanse of the ocean, each wave a reminder that life was in constant, beautiful flux. Afternoons brought a series of discreet, forbidden meetups, private gatherings in secluded corners of the resort where conversations about art, love, and the nature of desire were shared with an intimacy that defied conventional boundaries. I was introduced to individuals from all walks of life, a dashing entrepreneur with a troubled past, a renowned photographer whose lens captured the raw beauty of vulnerability, and a gentle soul whose soft-spoken wisdom resonated like a lullaby in the midst of chaos. One particular afternoon stands out vividly in my memory. I had been invited to a secret meeting in a hidden alcove of the resort's lush gardens, a verdant oasis where time seemed to slow to a languid crawl. The invitation, delivered via an elegantly penned email, simply stated, "Join us for an intimate dialogue on the art of forbidden beauty." When I arrived, I discovered that a small group of like-minded guests had gathered in a circle beneath a centuries-old oak tree. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, and as the conversation began, I felt as though I were witnessing a spontaneous unveiling of the human soul. Stories of heartbreak, rebellion, and unyielding hope were shared in hushed, earnest tones, each narrative a thread in the tapestry of collective experience. I found myself confessing my own long-held fears, the fear of living a life dictated by convention, of never daring to follow the spark of my own desires. In that moment of raw honesty, I felt a connection that transcended language, a sense that we were all bound together by the shared quest for a life unencumbered by regret. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky erupted in a riot of colors, I found solace in the resort's grand dining hall. There, amid the soft glow of candlelight and the gentle murmur of refined conversation, I dined on a feast that was as decadent as it was symbolic. Course after course, each dish was an exploration of flavor and texture, a metaphor for the layers of experience that had been awakened within me. Between bites, I exchanged knowing glances with fellow diners, each of us silently acknowledging that we were part of something extraordinary, a clandestine celebration of life's hidden splendors. Throughout my stay at the opulent resort, every email confirmation, every discreet invitation, felt like a beacon guiding me toward a destiny I had once deemed unreachable. I began to see that these secret meetups were more than mere escapades, they were rituals of transformation, a call to reclaim the passion and authenticity that lay dormant in the shadows of routine. I immersed myself in this world of refined decadence and forbidden beauty, allowing myself to be both vulnerable and courageous in a way I had never dared before. As my final day at the resort approached, I found myself reluctant to leave this newfound sanctuary of self-discovery. I spent the morning wandering through the lush gardens, each step a meditation on the delicate interplay of nature and artifice. I took one last, lingering look at the infinity pool, where the ocean and sky seemed to merge in a seamless horizon of possibility. And as I packed my belongings, I couldn't help but wonder what other secret chapters awaited me in the vast, unpredictable narrative of life. That evening, I sat in the quiet solitude of my suite, the gentle hum of the ocean in the background, and composed an email of my own, a note of gratitude and farewell to the opulent haven that had sparked my metamorphosis. I pressed send with a final, resolute click, knowing that I was leaving behind a part of the person I once was, and stepping boldly into the realm of infinite possibility. In the fading light of that day, as I stood on the balcony and watched the last vestiges of sunlight dissolve into the night, I made a silent vow to never allow the mundane to eclipse the extraordinary again. I knew that the secret stays, the forbidden meetups, and the myriad unexpected invitations were not isolated anomalies, they were a glimpse into a life lived with passion, courage, and unbridled authenticity. And as I prepared to leave the resort behind, I carried with me the indelible imprint of those transformative experiences, etched into my soul like the timeless marks of a master artist. Now, as I reflect on that chapter of my life, I understand that the journey I embarked upon was only the beginning. The email confirmations that unveiled secret stays at an opulent resort and intimate, forbidden meetups were not just messages delivered to my inbox, they were the first whispers of a revolution within me, a call to awaken to the beauty and complexity of the human experience. With every moment that passed, I learned to embrace the unknown, to honor the delicate balance between desire and restraint, and to live a life that was as daring and unpredictable as it was profoundly meaningful. I know that I stand at the threshold of countless more adventures, each waiting to unfold with its own secret language of emotion and revelation. And though I leave this chapter behind with a sense of bittersweet longing, I also step forward with an unyielding belief that the extraordinary is always within reach, if only we have the courage to accept its invitation. Thus, with the opulent resort fading into the distance behind me and the promise of future, enigmatic encounters beckoning on the horizon, I close this part of my journey. I remain ever vigilant for the next email confirmation, the next secret message that will lead me deeper into a world of forbidden beauty and intimate connection. For in every hidden invitation, I find not only the thrill of the unknown but also the enduring reminder that life, in all its infinite splendor, is meant to be savored, celebrated, and lived with a heart wide open to possibility. I awoke the morning after my departure from the opulent resort with a lingering sense of wonder and an undercurrent of bittersweet melancholy. The memories of that clandestine weekend, the whispered conversations in secret garden alcoves, the intoxicating blend of art and desire, and the forbidden meetups that challenged every preconceived notion of who I thought I was, still danced in my mind like the delicate reflections of an exotic dream. I found myself unable to fully shake the sensation that I had been forever changed by those few days, as though each secret email, each meticulously arranged invitation, had planted a seed of possibility deep within me. In the first hours after returning to my everyday life, I became painfully aware of the difference between the world I had left behind and the world I now inhabited internally. My apartment, once a sanctuary of solitude and routine, now felt strangely confining, a quiet reminder of the uninspired existence I had almost resigned myself to. I began to wander the familiar streets with new eyes, noticing details that had once passed unnoticed, the way sunlight fractured through the leaves in the park, the spontaneous laughter of strangers in a busy cafe, the subtle interplay of shadow and light along the brick facades of old buildings. Everything around me seemed imbued with a secret language, as if the universe were speaking to me in hushed tones about the beauty of life's unpredictable twists. Yet, even as I tried to immerse myself in these everyday moments, the pull of that secret world, the opulent resort and its forbidden meetups, remained an irresistible magnet. My inbox continued to tinkle with new email confirmations, each one a delicate thread inviting me to a different experience. One message, sent with the same pristine elegance as the first, announced an exclusive invitation to a midnight soiree at an abandoned mansion on the outskirts of the city. The subject line read simply, "Eternal night, your invitation awaits." I remember hesitating before opening it, my heart beating in a mix of anticipation and fear. Had I already crossed the threshold into a realm from which there was no return? Or was I merely catching fleeting glimpses of a life more vibrant than the humdrum existence I had known for so long? That very evening, as dusk settled in and painted the sky in deep shades of indigo and maroon, I found myself on a journey once again. I left my apartment with deliberate care, as if each step carried me further away from the remnants of my past self. I boarded a taxi that whisked me through winding roads toward the mansion, its address hidden among layers of street art and whispered recommendations from trusted acquaintances. The vehicle's interior was quiet, punctuated only by the soft hum of the engine and my own thoughts, each one swirling with the possibility of yet another transformative encounter. When I arrived, the mansion loomed before me like a relic from another era. Ivy cascaded over its weathered stone walls, and broken stained glass windows caught the last embers of twilight. The building exuded an air of mystery and forgotten grandeur, a place where secrets had been etched into every crevice and where every abandoned room promised untold stories. A discreet attendant, dressed in a tailored uniform that matched the mansion's faded elegance, met me at the heavy oak door. With a polite nod, he invited me inside, and I stepped over the threshold with a mix of apprehension and exhilaration. Inside, the mansion was transformed. Soft candlelight flickered across ornate mirrors and antique furnishings, casting gentle shadows that danced upon the worn but lovingly restored floorboards. There was a palpable energy in the air, a sense that the building itself had been reawakened to host a celebration of life's more clandestine pleasures. At the heart of the grand foyer, a circular table was set for a sumptuous feast, a midnight banquet that promised an interplay of flavors as rich and complex as the stories of the guests who had gathered here. The table was adorned with flickering candelabras, bouquets of wildflowers, and porcelain settings that gleamed in the soft glow. I was greeted by a woman whose presence seemed to command both grace and mystery. Her name was Miel, and she moved through the room with an effortless elegance that belied the intensity of her gaze. "Welcome," she said, her voice a soft murmur that resonated with genuine warmth. "Tonight is a celebration of the unspoken, a gathering for those who dare to embrace the beauty in the shadows." As she guided me to a seat at the table, I couldn't help but notice that every guest here appeared to be part of a secret fraternity, each one carrying an aura of introspection, their eyes filled with stories of love, loss, and the desire to break free from the confines of routine. The banquet began with a series of delicate amuse-bouches, tiny works of culinary art that exploded with unexpected flavors. With every bite, I felt memories of the resort's decadent dinners intermingling with new sensations, hints of truffle and citrus, whispers of exotic spices that transported me to faraway lands. As I savored these fleeting tastes, a sense of familiarity and wonder washed over me. Here, in this abandoned mansion resurrected for the night, every flavor was a reminder that life was meant to be experienced in its fullest, most unbridled form. Between courses, conversation flowed like a gentle stream. I found myself seated next to a man named Julian, whose eyes were the color of stormy seas and whose voice carried the calm assurance of someone who had seen both the depths of despair and the heights of ecstasy. Over the soft clink of silverware and the rustling of linen, Julian shared his story, a tale of a life spent in quiet servitude to duty and expectation, until one fateful encounter shattered his long-held beliefs about love and passion. His words were poetic, raw, and imbued with a sincerity that struck a chord deep within me. I realized that, like him, I had been a prisoner of a life that valued safety over the wild, unpredictable beauty of chance. As the evening deepened into the velvety embrace of midnight, Mael rose to announce the next phase of the night's secret revelry. We now invite you to partake in an experience that transcends the boundaries of convention, a dance beneath the stars, where each step is a declaration of the freedom found in vulnerability. The announcement was met with a murmur of anticipation, and soon guests found themselves drawn to a grand, open courtyard that lay behind the mansion. There, under a canopy of stars and amidst the soft glow of lanterns, a live band began to play a haunting melody, a fusion of classical strains and modern rhythms that seemed to echo the heartbeat of the night. I stepped out into the courtyard, the cool night air wrapping around me like a lover's embrace. The sound of music, laughter, and whispered confidences created a tapestry of emotion that was as intoxicating as it was liberating. I found myself swept up in the dance, a slow, rhythmic movement that felt as if it were choreographed by the very spirit of the night. With each step, I felt barriers crumbling, as if the music and the collective energy of the gathering were dissolving the constraints of a life lived in quiet obscurity. I danced with strangers and old acquaintances alike, each moment a fleeting brush with the sublime. In one particularly poignant exchange, I was approached by a woman named Claudia, whose eyes shone with the clarity of someone who had traversed the darkest valleys and emerged into the light. "There is beauty in our imperfections," she whispered as we danced beneath the stars, her voice both gentle and fierce. "Every scar, every regret, every secret desire, they are threads in the tapestry of who we are. Tonight, let us celebrate them all." Her words, filled with both empathy and conviction, resonated deeply within me. I realized that this night was not simply an escape from the mundane, it was a reclamation of every part of myself I had ever hidden away, a bold declaration that I was ready to live fully, with every raw emotion and every secret longing laid bare. The hours slipped away like water through cupped hands. As the music gradually softened and the first hints of dawn began to lighten the horizon, I found myself once again drawn to a quiet corner of the mansion. Here, I sat with Julian and a few others, our conversations turning from the exuberance of the dance to the quiet introspection of what we had experienced. We spoke of the transformative power of art, of the beauty that emerges when one dares to step away from societal expectations, and of the deep, sometimes painful truths that are revealed when we open ourselves to the unfiltered essence of life. I confessed to Julian that for years I had allowed fear to dictate my choices, afraid of stepping into the unknown, of allowing my true self to shine in all its chaotic brilliance. He listened intently, his eyes never leaving mine, and in that shared moment of vulnerability, I felt an intimacy that transcended the physical confines of the mansion. "The greatest risks," he murmured softly, "are the ones that lead us to our truest selves. It is only when we dare to break free from the chains of routine that we can truly experience the wonder of being alive." As the first light of dawn grew stronger, casting a silvery glow over the ancient walls of the mansion, I reluctantly prepared to leave this secret gathering. Mael escorted us to a discreet exit, her eyes glistening with unspoken promises of future encounters. Stepping back out into the early morning chill, I felt both invigorated and pensive, as though I were carrying the weight of 1,000 new possibilities upon my shoulders. The mansion, with its echoes of laughter, music, and whispered secrets, receded into the distance behind me, yet its influence lingered like a benediction. The ride back to my temporary lodging was quiet, a reflective silence filled with the hum of passing streets and the soft murmur of the driver's radio. In that stillness, I allowed my thoughts to settle. I realized that the email confirmations, the opulent resort, and the intimate, forbidden meetups were not isolated incidents in a life otherwise defined by the mundane. They were invitations to rediscover a part of myself that had long been shrouded in the routines of conformity. Each secret invitation was a call to remember that passion, art, and vulnerability are not luxuries reserved for others, they are essential to the human experience. Over the next few days, as I wandered through the sunlit corridors of the resort and ventured out into the vibrant city that lay beyond its walls, I carried with me the transformative energy of that night. I began to challenge my long-held assumptions, exploring new artistic pursuits, engaging in heartfelt conversations with strangers, and even allowing myself moments of quiet introspection in the solitude of nature. I realized that every experience, every secret meetup, every decadent dinner, every whispered conversation, was a brushstroke on the vast canvas of my life, painting a picture that was as unique and unpredictable as it was beautiful. I kept a journal during those days, each entry a testament to the raw, unfiltered emotion that now coursed through my veins. I wrote of the taste of forbidden fruits, the thrill of dancing under a sky full of stars, and the gentle wisdom shared by those who had also chosen to defy the confines of routine. I described the subtle interplay of fear and desire, the delicate balance between risk and reward, and the quiet revelations that came when I allowed myself to be truly present in each moment. Every page was a declaration of the new life I was beginning to live, a life defined not by the predictable rhythms of the past but by the boundless potential of each new, secret invitation. One evening, nearly a week after that midnight banquet in the mansion, I received another email confirmation. This one was even more cryptic than the rest, its subject line reading, "Eclipse of the Heart, your next rendezvous." The message detailed an invitation to a secluded villa nestled in a remote valley, a place said to be a haven for those seeking refuge from the ordinary. The invitation promised a weekend of immersive experiences, private dinners under the stars, secret art exhibitions, and intimate gatherings where participants were encouraged to share their deepest truths. As I read the email, I felt a shiver of anticipation. Could it be that this was the next step on the journey of self-discovery I had only just begun to understand? That weekend, I traveled to the remote villa, leaving behind the familiar chaos of the city for a sanctuary of quiet grandeur. The villa was a masterpiece of architecture, with sprawling verandas, intricate mosaics, and hidden courtyards that seemed to whisper of ancient legends and timeless beauty. Upon arrival, I was greeted by a serene host who led me through a labyrinth of gardens and quiet pathways until I reached my private suite. The interior was a sanctuary of calm, a harmonious blend of natural elements and refined luxury, where every detail was designed to evoke a sense of introspection and renewal. Over the next few days, I immersed myself in the rhythms of the villa. Mornings were spent wandering through dew-kissed gardens, meditating by tranquil ponds, and sketching the interplay of light and shadow on ancient stone walls. Afternoons were dedicated to private art sessions with local artists whose work captured the essence of forbidden beauty, and evenings unfolded in a series of intimate dinners where strangers became confidants and each shared meal was a celebration of vulnerability and connection. I found that the villa, with its serene isolation, allowed me to reflect deeply on the transformations that had been set in motion by those secret email confirmations. Every encounter, every shared moment of laughter or quiet tear, reinforced the idea that life was not meant to be lived on the surface alone, it was meant to be plumbed to its deepest, most passionate depths. One night, as a soft rain began to fall over the villa's expansive grounds, I attended a particularly stirring dinner in a secluded pavilion. The atmosphere was charged with emotion. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth and blooming night jasmine. A renowned sculptor, whose work I had admired from afar, was the guest of honor, and he spoke candidly about the struggles and triumphs of his creative journey. He told stories of how rejection and failure had often paved the way for his greatest works, and how every setback was a hidden blessing in disguise. As I listened, I felt tears prick my eyes, not out of sorrow, but from the overwhelming recognition that every part of my past, even the painful moments, had led me to this extraordinary present. By the time the weekend drew to a close, I realized that my journey was far from a series of isolated escapades. It was an evolving odyssey of self-discovery. The email confirmations that had once startled me into action had become guiding beacons, illuminating a path filled with art, passion, and intimate, forbidden meetups. I had learned to embrace the unknown with a fearless heart, to trust that every secret invitation was an opportunity to reconnect with the parts of myself I had long neglected. Returning once again to my regular life, I carried with me the profound lessons of the villa. That transformation is not a destination but an ongoing process, that beauty exists in both light and shadow, and that every whispered secret, every hidden invitation, is a call to live with passion and authenticity. I found that I no longer feared the mundane. Instead, I welcomed it as the canvas upon which the extraordinary was painted. Now, as I sit in the quiet solitude of my study, penning these reflections with a renewed sense of hope, I understand that the journey sparked by those mysterious email confirmations is one that will continue to unfold in unpredictable and beautiful ways. I look forward to the next invitation, the next clandestine meeting that challenges me to break free from convention and dive headfirst into the rich tapestry of life. Every secret stay, every intimate meetup, every moment of forbidden connection is a stepping stone toward a life lived fully and without regret. In the delicate balance between the ordinary and the extraordinary, I have discovered a truth that resonates deep within me, that our lives are defined not by the boundaries we set for ourselves, but by the moments when we dare to transcend them. With each email that appears in my inbox, I am reminded that there is a world beyond the safe confines of routine, a world of opulent escapes, forbidden delights, and profound personal transformation. And so, with a heart forever open to the possibility of change, I embrace the unknown, knowing that each secret invitation is an opportunity to rewrite my own story, one exquisite, breathtaking chapter at a time.